One of the most common questions that we get is, well, at what size do I need HR? Like, do I need HR now, or is there a certain number of employees that I should have before, before I should consider this? So I'm going to ask you a little bit of a trick question, Joey. At what size does a company need HR?
I love that question because I have a consistent answer. You need HR at employee zero. You need some form of advisor, consultant, resource that will help you shape the company that you are envisioning before your first employee.
Right.
And the reason why is because there is a lot of conversation about talent being so important, and people are our greatest resource. But what happens to companies that don't grow or that aren't successful is it's because they have underestimated the importance of an effective HR strategy. So you don't need the full-time HR pro at employee zero, but maybe you need somebody that you can pick up the phone. Maybe you need an advisor that you can take out to lunch and pick their brain. Maybe you need a package or a course that you can acquire on day one to help you think about some of the ways that you want to build that great business of yours. So I say employee zero. Someone may challenge me. I'll be able to defend it. But Sommer, what do you think about it? When's the right time to start thinking about having HR expertise in your business?
Absolutely ideal at employee zero. I mean, but we hear and recognize that, sometimes it's a bit of an afterthought, and, it's at that next earliest opportunity that's then the right time. The way that I explain this to business owners is that there's kind of two paths that I find that businesses are established. Either it's hey, I wasn't really planning on starting this business, but it kind of started itself. And so now I'm a little further down the road, and now I'm kind of doing my business planning. So it's like, okay, well, when you start doing your business planning and you think about, well, what is the core of your business? It's your people. So what I try to get business owners to think about is, business strategy. At the very center of your business strategy should be your HR strategy, because those are the people that you're going to need to execute your business strategy. So having HR and building a strategy, even if it's super simple, as early as possible is absolutely ideal. But what we often see is that companies believe that they have to be a certain size before they seek an HR advisor, or they run into a problem because they didn't really know what they were doing. And then they reach out to us because they realize, shoot, like I had no idea, please help. And certainly that's when we step in. But if you can avoid that headache and actually take a more, planned and thoughtful approach, then you're going to have an advantage versus, other companies that may be starting up in that same space.
Yeah, I wanna cite an article here on entrepreneur.com it's called 10 reasons why 7 out of 10 businesses fail within 10 years. There are stats about companies that don't make it to 5, companies that don't make it to 10. But in this article, of the 10 reasons that are listed, there are 3 or 4 of them that directly relate to your HR and people strategy. For example, inability to control expenses might have to do with, are you hiring the right people at the right rate and holding them to an appropriate level of accountability? Lack of strategic and effective leadership has everything to do with, can you motivate people towards a goal, and do you celebrate them when they get there? Another one, failure to build an employee tribe, which means your workplace culture sucks. And then failure to create the proper business systems, which is the path and processes that your team uses to be successful. So we often think that, success in business is about having the right product or having the right sales or having the right pricing. And all of that is important. So I wouldn't take away from that. But just as important is your ability to attract, hire, retain, and grow a workforce, because products don't power businesses, people power businesses. And I know I'm biased. I've got an HR company, but I really believe it that businesses that grow and are successful for the long term have a really effective people strategy, whether that's having a consulting firm like ours to speak to their business, or that means you've grown to the point where you need a full-time HR support.
Yes, and one of the pieces that I want to add to this is one of the heart to heart conversations that I'm typically having with small business owners and leaders when they're struggling with, like, I don't know what to do. I don't know that I can afford a HR professional. Like, please help. Like, what's the answer? And it's a little bit different for everybody. But we start having conversations about what is the kind of opportunity cost here. So if you're a business owner and you're trying to wear 15 different hats and HR is one of them, what are you giving up in terms of growing and advancing your business because you're trying to save by not investing in HR support? And so as we start to have these conversations and dissect, hey, what if we helped you just 5 hours a week? What would you do with those 5 hours? And then they start talking about, oh, well, I could pursue, 20 new leads. And okay, well, what's your conversion rate? And we start talking about it. Okay, well, my conversion rate is this. So that means that with that additional time, the potential revenue associated with it is X. Okay, well, then we compare that to, well, what's your investment in HR, right? And the investment in HR is in 99% cases significantly lower. So it's like, well, there's the math for your decision right there. Like, invest in HR so that as a business owner, you can grow your business, which is a very wise investment.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. That's such an important way to look at the opportunity to not only grow your business, but to reinforce your people operations processes with effective talent to say, hey, for 5 hours a week, I'll have an HR pro come in and get us where we need to go so that I can go out and drive the business and move it forward. Very, very, very true. While we have a couple minutes here, let me go deeper into this question and say, we've already answered the question of when you need HR, but could we maybe talk about the types of HR activities that someone should be thinking about at employee 0, at employee 1, at employee 5, at employee 10? What are your thoughts?
Number one is always going to be compliance. And I say that because there are so many rules, both federal, state, and sometimes even at a local level that businesses need to follow just to operate their business. But from an HR standpoint, that's an area of our expertise. And so, as a business owner, why take chances? Because just one small mistake, if you are audited, unfortunately could be so expensive that it could put a company out of business before they've even had a chance to truly get started.
I agree. You and I individually have gone through I-9 audits, employment law disputes, misclassifications of overtime and who's a contractor, who's not. That we have enough war stories to say that this is the most important thing, because it really is something that could stop your business from growing and being the business that it could be. Another thing that I would think about at employee 0 is, like, what is the culture that you want in your organization? So before you even bring your employees on board, think about the environment that they would be in. What are the values that you reward, and what are the values that you discipline? I like this question whenever I'm interviewing someone. I say, describe your ideal supervisor and describe your ideal workforce. Those are two questions that are going to be critical in that first stage of building a business, because you may not be able to offer the major salary. You may not be able to offer all of the perks and benefits that we talked about in episode 20 of the While We Were Working show, but you can offer a great workforce. You can offer great leadership, and people will follow that if you can give them a place that they want to be under a person that they want to support. And that's huge. That's huge. So think about that. What else you got?
Well, I just wanted to touch on that a little bit. I know that we're kind of running up on time, but I couldn't agree with you more, because, if those that are listening have never worked at a company that has a really terrible work culture, it may be difficult to understand, but, it's quite frequent that I talk to team members, and they do have really sad and disappointing stories about working at a company that had such a poor culture that it's really left them it's really left them with a little bit of like emotional damage that they kind of take into their next company. And so as a startup, if you can look at, what can I do to take care of my team, to give them the best work environment possible that's positive and supportive, and where there's trust and strong, meaningful relationships can be built. It's a place that's safe to make mistakes without fear for fear for losing one's job. I think creating that, it doesn't cost anything, and it's really, really meaningful to a lot of people, especially if they've had a really terrible experience.